When I was growing up, I realized very quickly that many women are trained to be appendages or just to be accessories rather than fully actualized grown women. And I realized this at a very early age. I was very fortunate to have my elders and the women around me teaching me from a very young age that you can't trust men, you can't trust women, because often women are the ones who police the things that men do and allow them to get away with it because we don't really hold them accountable in some spaces and some communities. And unfortunately, like I had to learn a lot myself. And I think that you can teach and preach as much as you want, but some people just need to experiencing these things, right? But something I really realized through my lifetime that I've personally struggled with is I've encountered a lot of women, particularly who do not like me. And at first I thought I was the problem, and I've analyzed this every other way, but I very quickly realized that a lot of people are very jealous of me. And this isn't an ego thing whatsoever. I actually find this really interesting and honestly really sad. I've been in numerous situations where it's in the workplace, where I have older women who are resenting me for my youth or for things or experiences that I've had or my ability to do certain things. For example, I'm a single parent and I still go to full school time and I still work. And I work very, very hard to actualize my goals and for my child and myself. And I've struggled a lot. But on the outside, I started to realize that people aren't perceiving that. And they may think that I have some sort of privilege where I really don't. I've been through homelessness. I've been through a lot of abuse. I've fostered a really good environment for my child and I because I left that kind of life. I've made major changes and I've gone through a lot and I've really worked hard to educate myself. But to the outside perspective looking in, they might not be able to gauge this, right? And I stand by the fact that I'm a human being, and I don't think that anyone is perfect, and anyone who pretends to be is so far from it because you shouldn't have to. Regardless, I started to realize that a lot of people resent what you have or what they think you have. Many times they'll project a lot of subconscious thoughts or even their life regrets onto you as like a canvas. And they use you to kind of vent that out. But something that I also realized is that I had an experience recently, right? This has been going on for the past few years. And I'm not going to get too into detail, but I had a group of girls who were really fascinated with me. And when I had Instagram, they were all over my Instagram. This whole group would like everything that I did at the start. Then they just started to be voyeurs. They'd slide up on every post. I could see them viewing everything. I could see that like one of them would interact, and it started to get really bizarre. And all of these girls were very wealthy. They were very affluent. They had a lot of following. And it was because of a relationship that I had in my past that they were like really interested in me. And something that I very quickly realized is that they were resentful towards me because I had a mutual friend and we were talking about it. Though these girls looked like they had everything together, I very quickly realized that they had absolutely no freedom. These girls would be the types to go on trips all of the time, be on Instagram living their largest lives, but regardless, their life paths were picked out for them by their parents. Even their life partners were picked out for them by their parents. And those added perks of going on trips and doing things that others would want to do or having that kind of clout was literally all they had. That was their consolation prize. And when I realized that, I felt really sad for these girls because I know that they're sitting in their gilded cages looking out. I think that a lot of women, like this is what made me think about this, I think that a lot of women are expected to be so perfect and set at such a high standard. And there are all these pressures within society and even within the community of women that we already have. Because let's be real, a lot of women self-police each other and themselves. And I talked about this in a sociology course that was really interesting to me, where we were talking about how a lot of society polices itself. For example, we police like beauty standards or ideologies, where women will police each other going, are you really going to wear that top? It's not very flattering. And this starts off at a very young age, and I've noticed this even starts off during the like familial structure, right? Oftentimes, mothers and grandmothers are kind of enforcing this behavior and they pass it on. And unfortunately, the same could be said about like upkeeping behaviors that are not desirable or that are detrimental to our communities. For example, we have a major problem, especially, anywhere in many communities with SA, particularly within the home and within the family dynamics. And I had to study this for the sociology course, and I found it really interesting because a lot of the times the women in the family actually defend the abusers. And this actually becomes more likely when you have like a religious structure introduced. That all being said, we have the power to shift what happens and how we are perceived and how we are treated in society. And we can see this like happening for the last like 60 years of feminism, right? For the good and for the bad. And I think that there's like a more complex and nuanced conversation to take place because I also think that there are more people to blame in many situations. It's not just women, because here's the thing is that women are the ones that are looked at the most and held the most responsible. I definitely blame patriarchy, and I definitely blame the systems that are set up to work this way, because make no mistake, the men are the ones who are training the women to police the other women. Do not get me wrong, but there comes a point in time where we as women need to look at ourselves introspectively and break the generational chain, right? Because I saw a creator on here talk about how these toxic cycles are really just bad habits passed down. And I truly believe that to an extent. Because when you look at it, it is behaviors, it's ideologies, it's genetics, it's environment. There's this whole bullshit line of nature versus nurture. It's never nature versus nurture, it's always nature and nurture. And you have the unique ability to break this pattern in this cycle today. You just have to decide what you want to do. You really need to introspectively do what they don't want you to do, which is take a look at yourself. Take a look at the women around you. Take a look at the morality policing or lack of morality policing around certain women or certain people in your life. Look at, and I know this is really controversial, but look at if this woman is doing what's good for herself. Because I think this also falls into like a lot of women are trained to basically be subservient to men. And it's really sad because I've literally watched so many women who have such good potential be basically trained into male-centered individuals or relationship-centered individuals, right? Wherein that is the only goal that they have, and then when they're left high and dry, there's nothing left for them. And I think these are a lot of complex, nuanced conversations, and I can go into depth into whatever you guys want to hear. But I do truly, I feel like I just had this epiphany of the fact that, the grass isn't necessarily always greener on the other side. And I had a big problem, and I still do, with the idea of, my own self-worth and what I can contribute. And when I really started to rack in views on TikTok, when I had people actually listen to me, right, for the first time, because the thing is, to get personal, I don't really care, but let's be real, I've had an experience where a lot of people have not valued what I've said throughout my life. I've been dismissed often because I'm a woman, but also just because I am not conventionally attractive. I don't convey things in the way that people like. And I just have no interest in pretending this false reality that people create in society is real, right? I think that things are more complex, things are more nuanced. These conversations are always really interesting. But when I started to see, I have so many people valuing what I say now. And I realized that there are weight to my words, and there's weight to everyone's words. I just kind of sat back and had this epiphany of, oh my gosh, I just realized why these people in my life, and I'm not saying it's every single woman I've ever met. I have a ton of women friends. Some of my best friends, I have a friend, she's like my sister. I have so many friends who I absolutely love that are women. This isn't against women. This is just how we as women are being dragged down by patriarchy and how patriarchy orchestrates this, right? Please do not mistake me that I mean otherwise. I don't. But I just kind of realized that there are people who are just truly genuinely miserable, and they really just want to broadcast that onto you and have you to blame because they need to feel something better. And it's just really sad. And I see that a lot with women who are cheated on. They turn on each other even though both of them didn't know often. And it's usually the man's fault. I could go days and days on these double standards. But just don't be so harsh on yourself. If there's someone who really hates you or just doesn't like you, honestly, just take a look at them and realize that there might be going on in their own personal lives. And I know it's really hard sometimes, but I just kind of feel bad and have empathy. I had this moment where I saw this girl, and I knew that she was getting married to someone that I knew who was a horrible person. And she's not the best person either. But at the end of this, like, I'm looking through her social media and I just felt sad for her. It's always better to have empathy and try to move on than to dwell and rub it in someone's face. Unless they're a horrible fucking war criminal of a person. Even then. Let me know what you think. This is very discombobulated. It's like 1 a.m. Jesus Christ. Have a good one, guys.